Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and all in between. This is the Daniel Teachers Experience. I'm super excited to have one of my closest friends. My friends, if you think I'm positive, if you think I'm hardworking and disciplined, wait until you meet my friend Frankie, son. Frankie, how the frick are you, my friend?
Oh no, he's putting too much pressure. The stakes are on now. No, I've been amazing, man. You know how I've been. I got to see you a little over 2 weeks ago for the first time in like what felt like years, right? But it was only about like 8 months or something like that. We got to a lot of talking back when I visited. So it was really nice hearing everything you've been doing with the channel and the podcast and whatnot. And if anyone listening doesn't already know, man, like this guy he's teaching some valuable stuff like life lessons, be like for people who don't even need this stuff, you'll find something out of it. And so basically Daniel asked me, are we gonna do this? And what else am I supposed to say, man? What am I supposed to say? How have you been? Tell me a little bit about how the podcast has been going. Let's
It's
talk
been
about that
amazing.
first.
It's been amazing, Frankie. The
Yeah.
podcast has been sensational. I've been able to meet so many new people, man, and just learn so much from every single person that I've talked to. But forget the past, Frankie, because what matters is right now. What matters is you. Frankie, what are we going to talk about today, man?
Say less. Yo, well, we did a lot in like the 10 days that I came back to like the West Coast, and when we all got to like finally sit down and talk and hang out in like Baines' studio, right? Shout out boy Baines. We got to even like make some music and stuff like that. And that was like the epitome of where I was, what I was searching for like the past like months here in Calgary, was basically like something new, something fresh to do while you're, doing your day-to-day stuff, chasing the particular bag. So like, rappers talk about chasing the bag as, chasing the money or chasing the dreams, whatever the bag is for you, right? They're chasing it. And so like for me, it was about what more can I offer myself day to day without, completely strict, like gearing away from my bag. My bag is dance, right? Or anything occupying like what a professional, successful, happy dancer or artist would do. But it's like more than just that, I realized like when we were even just in Sahil's studio, for example, our good friend Sahil Baines, uh, big music guy, he's on the way to something new. And I knew this because you and him, it was Daniel Teaches featured on Baines' song, and we were listening to this in the room in the studio, and it was just the most surreal moment. You know what I mean? We just walked in. We didn't do anything yet. We didn't crack open bottles. We didn't do anything. We weren't even celebrating yet. And like he just dropped this huge bomb on me. And I was like, dude, Daniel has been working. Okay, Daniel has been working on his podcast and his like goals for his his identity on social media and on YouTube and on all platforms. But the meantime, he's been writing bars. Like no one told me any of this. So I was shocked. I was shocked, and I wasn't expecting to also be thrown in to the like wordsmith bag and have that part of it open up for me too. But then, I obviously had to join in because that was it. That was perfect. I didn't even need to wait. And something new opened up, which was like writing lines and writing verses, right? So that got me thinking, like, man, like chasing one bag, like how to just like stay happy in a particular occupation. It's more than just like obviously doing doing it the way everyone else does, or doing it the way it should be, like for someone trying to like jumpstart a YouTube channel, right? It's more than just about like posting 5 times a week, you know what I mean? Even if the content is completely different every time, it's still just within YouTube. So doing something completely different, like a podcast that, is shared on the Facebook, Instagram, social media platform, or even just like going to schools and talking to students, you know what I mean? That in itself is already something outside of that particular occupation. So it's like for me, it was so uplifting getting to like just not worry about dance training for like a solid 10 days that I was back with you guys on the island, because that's all I was doing here, right? And it's all I'm doing again now that I'm back. And I know it sounds like a job the way I'm saying it. It's just that it's not. It's like it's very, very like very you got to feel a certain type of way about it, and you got to make sure that you're serious when you talk about it. So if at any point it sounds like, oh god, this dude probably hates dancing, we need to save him, no, no, no. I trust. Okay, it's I love it. It's life. It's just, you gotta, we're in the stage of our lives where it's like, it's no longer just for shits or just for fun, you know what I mean? So it's no longer just a hobby anymore. It's an occupation where it's a soon to be job or like lifestyle. So basically, yeah, it was about like, what else can you do other than dance? And it was like, wow, writing rhymes. I didn't know that this would be that fun, you know? And I think that's kind of something that like you probably experienced as well, and it was probably just as like uplifting to realize, right? Like for yourself, how was that process of getting to work in a music, like it's a real ass music studio. What he has, his setup is not a joke. So it was like we got the full experience that some kids or even like some of the biggest names in music now wouldn't have gotten years ago, just because of technology, just because of the way like economics is, right? So how was that for you? Because I didn't even get to ask too, my guy.
For sure, man. For sure, Frankie. I think, I think it's just so cool. So for the people listening, if the people watching, I am extremely grateful to have people around me who know who they are. They're extremely self-aware, and because of that, they know what their strengths are, and they're like, hey, man, like I have to do something in life that's revolved around X, whether that's dancing, whether that's music, whether that's basketball, whether that's art, whether that's motivational speaking. So I'm very, very gifted and grateful to have those sorts of people around me. And as my good friend Frankie was just saying, we have a good friend of ours, Mr. Baines, who we know is big into the music, and it's just so amazing being able to see the people around you grow. And I think Frankie said it really, really well. When you're in your own world. So for Frankie, I can only imagine how much time you spend dancing and how much time you just spend thinking about dancing, right? And how much time Anson spends thinking about art, and I spend about thinking about YouTube videos. So when you can get out of that for a couple of days, and it's like a breath of fresh air. You step into someone's music studio, or if I was to step into like your dance studio, it's such a almost a refreshing experience, man. So I think it's good when you've identified your passion, when you know what you want, when you know what you want to do, when you can just kind of take a step back, go get re-energized, and come back into it, man. I think it's a fantastic experience.
100%. It was exactly that. It was so refreshing because like no one other than Baines knew what the heck they were doing. Like no one knew what the hell they were doing. And I knew I didn't know what I was doing. I just know, oh, I like writing rhymes. I've been writing rhymes like a couple times the past month. May as well like, hop on one of these beats that he has going on. But then like it was your song you made with him, like your track that you made with him, that I was like, wow, we can actually take this to another level. Like
Oh
half of us,
man.
like none of us in this room other than Baines is trying to like make it in the music business, right? Or like no one here is trying to chase that bag particularly. Maybe we are later, right? I don't know about right now, at least, right? For myself, I
Is
was
is,
like,
there, is there a rapping
this
career in
isn't
your
it.
future, Frankie?
Dude, I think there's a rap career in all of our futures. Like we
Oh
have a
man.
gang.
Oh
I don't
man.
I don't
That's
know if
so
you
funny.
guys, yeah, like
That's
this
hilarious.
isn't, yeah, no, it's a PG-13 gang, okay, for any of our younger viewers, okay? It's we're not criminals. We're just a really good group of we're really
Oh
close
man.
close group of guys who just love making music, love talking about life, and love, just spending time together. So it's like for Baines to welcome us into his bag so just like unconditionally, and so naturally, it was just the most like refreshing thing ever. I couldn't even think about, I didn't want to think about dance, but it's like that's not in like a toxic negativity or like a kind of like regretful way, but it was mostly just very, very exciting to not have to completely like shift gears so quickly. Because it was like before that, it was just months of just training with like my crews here, and hosting events and throwing fundraisers and stuff like that for like artists in the community, which were mostly dance based or for the dance community. And then out of nowhere, we just start making music in this dude's like music studio. Is just the craziest of experiences. So basically, that's one, the main thing that uh that basically ignited this new search for like I was talking to you earlier, like a search for a new type of wisdom or philosophy to live by for anyone, not even artists, not even just artists, or content creators or influencers, whatever the hell that means. Not just for us, but for anyone in any particular occupation. That's why like we use the word occupation, right? Because it's not just about like rappers and singers and dancers and like musicians and public speakers. It's like anyone who wants to do anything and do it successfully, basically, or anyone who has just one particular passion that they're very, very excited and passionate about, but they're not sure how to find that end goal. And so basically, it was about the first step in mind, obviously, when I came back here. And I'll use all the experiences that I've gathered, right, since being back in my hometown here in Calgary. It's basically along the lines of like, what kind of a community can you find? That's the first step. So it's like, go find the community. That's the first thing I would do, obviously, because I was away from this place for so long, right? Spending time in the West Coast with you guys, came back out of nowhere. It's like the dance community I knew before is no longer the same, obviously, right? Some of my friends are no longer dancing, the ones that I used to dance with. A lot of complete new faces in the dance community here have shown up, obviously, right? People who I looked up to are now looking up to people even further up in the food chain, right? So it was find the community. And if you're in a particular occupation where finding the community may be difficult, or there just isn't one, because if you're, for example, if your community isn't too big on skateboarding, but you want to pick up skateboarding because your whole life you wanted to just be the face of like off the wall, or just the biggest name in skating, that it's possible even in a small town. You know what I mean? It's just, if you can't find the community, then you build the community. Yeah, just build it yourself, right? That's what most people do in places that have a shortage for this particular skill, or like this particular hobby. And to you, it might not even seem like a hobby, right? Because let's remind ourselves that like this model should only be used for people who are truly trying to chase this bag, truly trying to like make something out of this occupation. So like it's got to be the one thing that you value above all other passions or hobbies or skills that you have, because that way it's like you can really commit to it. And so after you find or build the community, you should feel comfortable in it, I guess. For me, it was so easy because I just came back and started dancing with my old crew, and then through that I made a new crew, and then so through that I met like several other crews who are big in this community. So that in itself is why I'm grateful. But I understand some occupations don't make it easy to find the community or to even build one, but building one is definitely possible. So that's where it feels like you shouldn't just gear this towards artists. Like chasing the bag is usually talked about just for rappers, but it's no longer just about rapping anymore. You know what I mean? Rapping was never just about rapping. It was about like representing the culture and whatnot. So it's the same thing for really anything, working out or like athletics, professional sports, stuff like that, making music, obviously. So yeah, so first find the community and then build on it.
I love it, man. I absolutely love it. I think it's so important for anyone who wants to turn their passion into like a full-time job or an occupation. It does wonders for you having the right community around you, right? Like it's like I can't tell you how much better I've been doing, when I reached out to other people on Instagram who are also podcasters, YouTubers, like as Frankie said brilliantly, like if you're not in that community, like can you build it, right? Can you make a Facebook page? Can you, like literally, I don't know, man, go to different rec centers, see if you can set up events, get to meet people, networking. So I think, man, having the right community around you, having the right people around you who think the same, right? Again, whether it's an artist or whatever you want to do, I think it's unbelievably important to quote unquote chasing the bag, right? Chasing your successes, bringing your dreams to reality, and all that good stuff. I completely agree, my man.
Exactly. Yeah, it's literally as easy as it sounds, just going to public places and meeting people. Like it sounds so outdated and like old fashioned to go in public and meet
Ridiculous.
new people. Yeah, meeting people on the
Oh
streets.
man,
What is that?
that's crazy.
What is that? No, but that stuff works, and it's probably the best way to meet someone for the first time. Is the best experiences I've had were just meeting people in flesh for the first time, even if I've heard of them and they have heard of me. I would be reluctant to message them because that's just it's not authentic enough, especially if this person is someone who I hope to have a very long-lived future with, a long-lasting friendship. Anyone like that who you might value that friendship later, you want to start it off with the most real of experiences. The realest of experiences come in the flesh. So it was about like, and that, you know, finding the community, building one, that you can't just do that online, you know. It really, you have to go and actually find them. You know, you can hit them up on social media and like tell them, you know, what you're thinking and stuff, but even then you're gonna have to go and actually live that and experience what that part of the community is doing. So yeah, and you know, after that, obviously, it would seem like self-explanatory to just ride that and then, you know, stay in there. For anyone who's dancing, you know, you would probably want to just you know, stay there, dance for a bit, and then, you know, train with these people, train with this crew, you know, attend their events, attend their battles, attend their competitions or whatever. But essentially it's just like finding a good comfort zone for yourself, you know, at the start. And so the next thing that I did basically after rejoining the dance community here, it was very quick, and it was very like unnoticeable how quickly I just like merged back with it, because the people here are so welcoming. So it's about that too. But it was now it's like, oh, what am I supposed to do now to keep up with all these people? Because in a way, you know, like we're not competing against each other, but we're all trying to be the best possible versions of ourselves, and that is only achieved by, you know, by at like finding the best training structure for yourself. So I think for anybody who like is in any occupation, right, this is what I did. Basically I just asked like how much of this training can I handle like a week, and then like bi-monthly, like per month, how much of it can I handle before I absolutely hate dancing. And so I basically just did that. I just like trained every single day in like multiple different styles that I lost or wanted to like master, until I essentially just like gassed myself out at the end of the month. And I did that for like a month. So basically just like 30 days of like 3 to 5 hour dance training challenge basically.
Every
So
day.
it's like, yeah, for like a 1 month. And then like obviously it's hard to just like cut yourself off, right,
For
for
sure.
the second month. So I would obviously be like, okay, well that was easy, I'll just do this for the next month, right? But it was like, it wasn't that it was, I thought it was easy, but it really wasn't, because I was just training the same stuff over and over again, without actually like finding any enlightenment. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah.
I knew that like what my limit was. I definitely like definitely don't do every day for 30 days, right? So I eventually like brought that down, and it was more of like a, you know, a couple times a week, at least like 3 hours a day, maybe 3 days a week, you know, or even like every day for an hour kind of thing, where
Mm-hmm.
you train in micro doses, right? And that is probably where like the more profound realizations came, where it was like, okay, now I have time to just like sit, because it's like the time is a lot more tight now. I don't get the whole day to just train, and I don't get every day now, so I have to do it properly, otherwise like I'm wasting this valuable time for training, right? Because I was also trying to like do other things, and you know, because this was when I wasn't even in school, so it was like, what am I supposed to do now, right? Everyone else was in school, but I was just here chilling, and I was like, okay, it's got to be like, this is the year that this is the perfect time, right, to basically find the perfect structure for chasing this occupation, you know. It was like, finally, like I waited 18 years, you know what I mean? Nah, it was nah, I waited like, it was more like just since childhood. It's like you always want to be able to do whatever it is you're passionate about every day, right? Since a kid,
Of
right?
course, of course.
You pick up a sport, all you want to do is play that sport, obviously, right? But you can't do that, right? So this is the first time in my life where I wasn't going to school, which is crazy, right? Our society kind of messed up in that way, but it was like a gift from the heavens. So it was like, I can't screw this up. And so I found that good schedule by overexerting myself first to see where the line was, right? So overexert yourself in your occupation, and you'll realize like how much of it you can actually handle. Obviously, during a time like when you're going to school, when you're working, and your occupation has nothing to do with school or work,
Mm-hmm.
it's probably a lot easier to figure out how much of it you should be able to do, because it's just however much free time you have, right, is how much time you'll be able to set aside to, you know, practice or to refine this particular craft, you know, whatever your craft is. But when you have absolutely nothing on your plate, like trust me, when I say I had nothing to do, like I really didn't want to waste that one semester. It was basically just the whole spring semester, right? Of 2020, of like up until basically this summer. So it was like, if you could imagine, like February all the way till August, the end of August, it was just about finding and training the best possible, like finding the best way to train everything that I wanted since I was a kid, you know. So once I overexerted myself, I understood where the line was, and then I built myself a schedule. So the schedule comes after you experiment. Don't just like rough draft a schedule and then throw yourself into it, right? Because then you're just going to be all kinds of messed up if one of the days doesn't actually line up perfectly the way you thought, or something screws up, you know, because unexpected occurrences will happen. Even if even if you were like me, not going to school, not working, not doing anything, right? Just training like that, even that, you know, you'll see some unexpected occurrences come up. So test it out first before you set a schedule that, you know, you really stick to. So the experimentation part of it was more of like I said, I didn't really like gain anything new from dancing every day for 30 days, right? For like 5 hours a day. Like obviously, like I think I was just tired for like the last like 20 days after the first 10 days, right? But it was more so about like how much of an improvement can someone actually get by doing something over and over again every day, right? And the answer was not that much, you know what I mean? It was more so, and so that's, you know, why building a schedule later seems to work more and more so for the people around me, not even just myself, but people around me as well, you know, especially now that school started. It might be
Interesting.
an even better idea, yeah, to before you apply this your craft into your daily schedule, like actually analyze like how much time do you really have, because you want to like do it properly, you know. If you're going to train a particular craft, you don't want it to come in conflict with everything else, right?
Good point, man. Good point. You're right. You want to make sure you can still go to work and to school and you're still eating well, you know, and you're still sleeping well to be able to do what you can. But I find it so admiring, Frankie, the people who can do whatever it is, working out, dance, you name it, man. When we can do it every single day, like consistently with discipline, I think that's so amazing, dude.
I mean, it's just like an experimentation. I don't know why I did that, but it was more of like, I've never been able to do that in my life. I may as well try and see how much of this I can tolerate. And like, that wasn't even the problem, because like, I was already like kind of in a phase where I was like, I'm not gonna lie to you. It was a very dark place, because it was like a plateau that you like, anyone who doesn't know what a plateau for artists is basically just like a point of no return, where you go and you've grown and evolved as an artist. In particular, for me it was dance. To a certain point you've grown, and you flatline, and you can no longer, you know, super succeed whatever you were doing before. Basically you're just stuck in one place doing the same stuff, or just at a creative rut. But it's a creative rut like beyond just the basic creative rut, because it's just constant, constant loss of satisfaction, and you just can't find new ideas, and just creativity dead. Basically it's almost just like a dead car battery, that like, you know, there's no jumper cables around, and you're just confused in the middle of the road, right? But then, you know, to get out of that, usually it takes like a person driving on the highway to stop and help you out and jumpstart your car, right? Which is usually what happens, is somebody, or like another individual or a group of people help this person, and then they get out of their plateau, right, as an artist. But for me it was multiple people. That's why I'm like grateful, you know. I can't talk down on the dance community here at all, even if I wanted to, because they're all so humble. They're all talented, but they're all just amazing human beings anyway. So it's like a lot of people help me out. This one very good friend of mine helped me out in particular, and he just reminded me that dance isn't really about, it should never be about performing, you know, 100,000% of the time. Like that's not why we get into this line of work, you know. It's not even a line of work to begin with, you know. It started off as like cultural and tribal practices that, like, you know, like Homo erectus would perform. and Homo sapiens would later like perfect,
Mm.
so like 200,000 years ago, people were dancing. So like compared to now, like we can obviously say that the dance scene has grown, right? But it's not so much about like living what it is now in the modern day to its perfection. Like you shouldn't have to feel stressed out about something you love, right? So he just reminded me, there's many other styles. Pick something else that you haven't been doing, practice that for a minute, or even just stop dancing for like a good solid like week or even a month, right? So this goes for any occupation that really like has a very brutal plateau effect to it. Like singers experience this a lot. Athletes experience this on a day-to-day basis. That's why I still don't understand how athletes can keep their minds together. I don't know how like basketball players like for Jeff. I don't know how Jeff like keeps his mind like intact, man. Sometimes I don't know. It's just constantly training stuff like that. That's basically what I was trying to do, and it's nuts to me, but it's just a constant like drive to want to be better than what they were 5 seconds ago, and that carries them. Like they ride the high of being better than they were yesterday. They ride the high all the way until the end of their career. So it's kind of like how I tried to adapt. I tried to adapt that athletic mindset into it, but at a certain point you should just probably stop and think about it, right? Like you were saying, I do spend a lot of time thinking about the dance community,
I
the
bet.
future of dance, right? All of that. Yeah. Of course I spent a lot of time doing that because like I finally understood to step back and chill for a second and not just perform it, but like like philosophize about it. You know what I mean? You got to like have some sort of philosophy going towards your end goal as well, not just like the constant hustle and like the constant grind. You got to be like philosophizing about everything. So it was mostly like a mental error, I would say. My body was fine, everything I was doing was fine. I just couldn't come up with anything new or exciting about it that made me want to go further. And that's where things got scared because I was like, oh god, is this like the end? Like am I going to stop dancing forever? But it was
Yeah.
definitely it definitely didn't get there because I obviously was so lucky to come back to a very big and welcoming dance community. So all my friends around me were like, you're stupid, stop saying this, just take a break. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah, man.
which
Let, let
helped
me
which
let me
helped
just let me just build on this gem that you dropped, man. I think it's really hard to take a step back, man. Because I feel like when you're grinding and when you're working hard and when you're pushing yourself, and then you hit that plateau where you don't see growth, right? You don't see, you feel like you're not getting any better. It's very easy to be like, you know what, I'm a hard worker. I'm just gonna work through it. Rather than maybe the smarter thing is, man, take a step back and go, wait a minute, like what am I working towards? Like, am I working on the right things? And I think it's really, really important to just not work hard just for the sake of working hard, but like you said yourself, step back for a second, just chill, look at the bigger picture, right? Am I working
uh,
smart, right? Does it make sense? Just because I'm sweating doesn't
exactly.
mean I'm doing the most, effective thing. So I think you're completely right, man. I think it's hard. I think it's hard to step back. That was all you, man. That was all you. Admit it. It was good.
100%. Dude, it was you couldn't have said it better. Okay, it was working hard for the sake of working hard because I thought that's what the average like ambitious artist should do is like work
Mm-hmm.
hard because everyone else is working hard, so you got to work just as hard or like,
Yep.
and then ultra, plus ultra plus a little bit
Mm-hmm.
extra, a little extra 10% than everyone else. And that's what I was trying to do, was do that and see if like after 30 days of doing that consistently every day would change anything. And it I can't stress enough, like other than physically like seeing some changes in like my body, like probably like getting a lot stronger and getting a lot more like dexterity. It was other than that, like even just like slight improvements in coordination, that isn't worth like losing your mind and going backwards mentally
Oh
about
yeah,
something,
yeah.
right?
Going to burnout.
Right?
You're totally right.
Yeah, if you go forwards physically but you go backwards mentally, you're just going to be like a mindless train engine, going until like the bridge or the path is just gone, right? The tracks are going to be gone, but it won't matter because your mind was like left like miles back
Oh
there, right?
man.
So it's like, yeah, you keep like the physical and the mental states just like together. Always train them together, I think, is because your mental state will always like exceed what your body can do. You'll always be thinking more so and you'll be expecting more than what your body can probably do, right? This is just for like anyone in an occupation that revolves around their body's like physical condition, and like that requires their body to be in a certain condition, like dancers, artists, athletes obviously, and just like calisthenics, like physical trainers, coaches. They always like talk about that, you know, but like what does that actually mean to keep your mental state just as healthy as your body, right? Because it doesn't really matter if you like you go a couple months and your body's in the perfect peak condition, but you're just like getting like more and more depressed every day. You know what I mean? You don't want to like leave yourself like in that zone while your body's just waiting to catch up, basically, right? So that was, yeah, a big thing, was asking people around me what they would do when they would plateau and stuff like that. And I was like, is it because like I don't have the strength or like the ability to do this? And they're like, no, because like literally within dance, like anything really is possible. Like it's not that, like it's very straightforward, right? Like even like people say like anything is possible. Like, okay, you can like argue that because it's kind of controversial, right? Like anything, but within dance, like anything is really possible, you
That's
know?
sick,
So
man.
it's
That's
as
awesome.
long as you, yeah, as long as you train it, which is so beautiful, right? It's just like magic, you know? Like that's why I just like, I compare artists with like magicians, you know, because we create shit out of nothing, basically, right? But it comes with a toll, obviously, right? It comes with a toll. So it's like, understand what the sacrifices are when you go towards something that is of great value, because there's definitely going to be some sacrifices, right? Nothing will come without a couple sacrifices. So it's
Oh, for
like, is it
sure.
worth it, right? Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? Is it worth it now, or is it going to be worth it more later? So that was, yeah, after finding a schedule, you know, you might feel like you're on the right path, but even then you got to stop and ask yourself, after every day that you train or do whatever it is that you do to refine your craft or your occupation, you got to like ask yourself and think about it, and like, you know, have a good philosophy about it as well, that you can talk about with others and then gain insight from them as well, right? And we're assuming that you've already built your community or found it, right? So this should be easy afterwards, like reaching out to people in the community, and usually they'll be able to give you like very, very helpful insight. I can speak on the dance community anywhere in the world that it's always going to be useful wisdom if you seek it, you know what I mean? Because everyone is a teacher, so it's very, very nice and helpful when you get in a plateau, or when you just feel like so confused. You know, when you just feel so confused about what you're supposed to do now, because either you're trying to do something that's not meta, so you're not trying to do what everyone else is doing, but you don't want to try and do something so outlandish just because you're seeking unique, you know, some unique
Totally. Oh,
quality.
for sure.
Yeah, right. It's that kind of like that could last for months too, right? Which sucks. It lasts for
Super overwhelming.
years. Yeah, it can
Yeah.
last for years, and that's the most overwhelming part, is thinking about, oh god, how long is this gonna last? That's probably the darkest part, was
Mm.
me asking myself like, yo, is this gonna last more than I think it is? Because if it is, I don't think I'll be able to like handle it or come back, you know? Like it might be the end, but that's all up to you. Like you can always get out of it, as long as you follow, like as long as you keep doing what you were doing before while you were successful, and then just finding new ways to like make the success that you had before the plateau branch out into other possibilities and stuff. And so that goes into like the next part of this, you know, not guideline, but this like overall philosophy that I was able to build for myself that worked. And that was like beginning to find new hobbies or occupations that are of similar or equal, at least like similar interest to you in comparison to your one main occupation. So for me, it was like dance would be the one main occupation. And obviously now writing rhymes and verses is definitely of equal or at least similar interest. But it's like it's something that I am very, very like happy to do, just with no like conditions involved at all, just doing it randomly, right? Makes me like feel happy. And so it's like it actually feels good to do this for yourself. That's the kind of, you know, hobby or occupation you want to go look for. And you can have multiple, you know, like smaller individual occupations alongside your main goal, right? But it's those occupations that, trust me, actually save your entire career. Like the small like hobbies that you give yourself and that you make yourself do are like, you shouldn't even have to feel like you're forced to do them, right? Like working out, for example, or like if you ever just want to go for a swim, Daniel, you'll probably just feel like this is second nature to just go
Totally.
do
Oh,
that,
for
right?
sure.
No one's gonna ask you to go do that, right? So it's like, if no one has to ask you to go do it, then it's probably of like, some interest or some value to you, and that will probably help your actual main occupation in the long run, because then your mind won't just be like warped around, this one line of work that just forces you to think about everything within the line of work and nothing else. And when your life is also occupied by school and maybe a job that has nothing to do with your main, whatever it is you're
Hmm.
passionate about, then it just feels like you're wasting time sometimes. And so that's when it sucks, is that you got to remind yourself there's like, you should still have fun in the end with something and enjoy yourself by doing anything. So it was mostly, yeah, like, what else can I do besides train dance that can keep me occupied but also not make me feel like I'm wasting time. And
Hmm.
so, like, many things, like, I came back and I found many old hobbies, many new hobbies. So it was really, really nice. And that's what I'm going to stick to for the next year. And I guess we'll come back to it in a year and I'll let you know how these new hobbies
Yeah, man.
are
Yeah,
going.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome, man. I've never thought about that before, Frankie. Or not in this way that you've presented it to me, but it makes complete sense. Because it's like, what does the dancer do when he's not dancing, right? What does the rapper do when he's not right?
Mm,
What does he do to just kind of, not waste his time, but something that he can immerse himself in that might not have much to do with, his first occupation. I think that is so brilliant, man. I think that is so brilliant.
right.
Now, whether you want to look at exercise or doing X, Y, and Z, and I think for a lot of people listening, they always think like, oh man, I can only have one. It can only be, doing this or doing that. But no, it's like, man, you can have like a
Nah,
like a like a major, like your main, and then maybe a couple, on the side, or minors and other things that you
exactly.
do.
Yeah, you got certificates and minors and like
Yeah,
mini
man, exactly.
minors,
Yeah, yeah,
baby
yeah.
minors, right? It all they'll all come in different shapes and sizes,
Of
and
course.
of like different interests too. But it's just like making sure that you're not just doing, like, unless, there are certain people who actually thrive very, very well by just doing the one thing that they want to do
Mm-hmm.
consistently every day, right? So but even then, there definitely will be a limit, I've noticed, with dancers, specifically dancers. It's like, or even artists, because I feel like what I can speak about on dancers, I can relatively apply to other artists and like musicians and singers and like painters and stuff like that. And anyone in those lines of work will probably, receive or experience the same kind of effects by just doing the same thing every single day, and seeing if like you can force improve. That I feel like is it'll get unhealthy, but it's also just like scary to, wake up every day and to force yourself. Like, I feel like it's unhealthy sometimes, to force yourself to do something every single day. It just to start off though, obviously, right? At a certain point, and it when it actually does become a job, like I said, uh, you gotta remind yourself that it's not a job until it's actually a job. That's a part of like the last bit of wisdom that I was able to like gather from talking to my friends and
Mm.
whatnot, which was just like preserving your appreciation and preserving the healthy image you have for whatever your craft is.
When does it become a job, Frankie? What's the distinction between, oh, this is my passion, my hobby, between like, oh, this is my gig now. This is my job. Well, what do you think?
When your materialistic reality relies on your occupation for like to just sustain it finance wise, so you need the money from this job to pay for your well-being and to pay for you to
Hmm.
to last, okay, to last on this planet. That is when it becomes a job, essentially, is when like you have an actual work schedule based around it that also provides you with income, but you know you can also say is still something you're passionate about, right? But that's when it like splits, basically, is like it's a passion but it's also a job. you know? And so it's like you just have to remind yourself that until it actually becomes a job, don't take anything too like that seriously. You know what I mean? Because if you have to remind yourself to like stay off social media sometimes, even stop comparing yourselves with other people. This is for like anyone who, you know, is trying to become a successful athlete, or any artist basically, or any influencer, any like, you know, content creator like yourself, like myself. If you have to stay off social media, uh then stay off social media, you know, because that's like where things got especially dark as well. I don't know if it's the same for you as well, but like staying on social media a lot while I was trying to train in those like many months of just like hardcore intense grinding with like people, and then just myself, back to the crew just with myself. It would always, the one like consistent variable would be Instagram and or YouTube. And that was like good for the start because I was like, okay, this is what I like. I would watch a very like well directed produced dance video and I was like, this is sick, like this is what I want to do in the future, right? But essentially it's like if you're taking other people's lifestyles and trying to morph yours into theirs, it's just not going to work out for you in the end, right? Like you have to find what it is about what you do that makes it so special for yourself, and that's what you want in the end, is like a unique identity, you know, and something that you can be proud of because you built out of thin air basically, right? Plus a little added resources, right? So it was like, if you have to stay off social media for your mental health sake. And, you know, preserving your appreciation for the craft will just become so much easier that way, because you're actually just all you get to do other than, you know, practicing. So for yourself, if it was like, other than making layouts for videos, other than making like, you know, a script for this podcast, or other than like reaching out to these certain people, you know, the only other exposure you get when you're not doing that would just be to think about it, you know, would just to
Hmm.
be whatever in your own head. And that you can control and mitigate, right? If you don't want to think about it today, it's fine, obviously, right? Because this in itself, it tends to feel like a job sometimes, even though it's not a job, right? You got to take it seriously like it is, though, especially if it's your main occupation, right? But
Mm.
if you have social media on the side, then that's another bit of exposure that you might feel and that you might attach some, you know, some sort of connection to your actual occupation. You don't want like, you know, social media and what you see other people doing fueling how you want to do your own thing, right? So it's like, if you have to, if that's where it gets to, then you just got to tell yourself, take some time off until you can like behave, or until you can like use social media in a way that doesn't toxically affect everything you're doing in your own life, in your actual reality, right?
Totally,
Yeah.
man. Totally. I think that's a really important note, man, because I feel like a huge pro of social media is if you don't know how to do it, you get to look at other people and you can kind of get ideas, you can kind of get inspired, get the ball rolling. But I've heard from many people who are artists, and especially lots of stand-up comics, like, man, we can't watch any other comics because when we do,
Yo,
subconsciously we find their bits and their materials, they rub off on us, and then we start doing
straight
things, and
up.
it's like we're ripping them off, and it's like we can't watch them because they have too much influence on us.
That actually happens though, all the time
Yeah,
too.
for
Yeah.
sure, for sure.
Yeah, because you hear about like comedians who have stolen this bit, or like there's just this new
Yeah,
scandal.
unfortunately.
Like it's a scandal, right? But it's like the comedian who stole this stuff or stole the material might not even notice that they stole it,
Yeah, for sure. It might be totally
right?
unintentional. Mm-hmm. Sure,
Which is crazy
for
because it's like
sure.
the community is supposed to like help each other out, but it's not supposed to like feel infectious, you know what I mean? Like it shouldn't feel like it's a like it's an infection going around, you know what I mean? Like this like having social media as a platform, having YouTube and stuff like that, you know, you should be able to connect with them on it. But beyond that, it's like, yeah, you got to ask yourself, like, am I using it for good, or am I using it for purposes that don't push me further,
Mm-hmm.
basically? That's where a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people get stuck. A lot of people, like, I feel like in our generation, we're really done with social media the past 2 years, basically. Like a lot of our close friends that, like, you know, we hang out with on a daily basis, it was like, man, you know, I finally deleted Instagram. I was like, yeah, I did that for like the 8th time the other day. And then I
Oh man.
downloaded it back again. And then so it was just the back and forth of like deleting it and then re-downloading it and stuff
Mm,
like that. And it's like at that point, man, just leave it, go back to it later after you've figured out yourself in your own life, you know, in your life away from social media. Once you figured that out, then go and utilize social media properly for what it's for, right? Not comparison, not for like you know, seeking approval or anything like that, but just for inspiration. It should be pure inspiration, purely used for inspiration. YouTube, you know, Twitter, Reddit, social like Instagram, everything that like has content uh like injected into it consistently should just be used for inspiration or just for entertainment basically, right? But yeah, it can get dark and like really toxic at a certain point when you stick to it too hard. So like, and that's when it gets to a point when people forget in any occupation, like really any occupation, and I'll have you like try and think of examples for me after, but like of occupations that may not necessarily follow this rule, but I believe genuinely, and I heard this from another very big name artist in the dance community in LA, who like they're very well known for the way that they conduct themselves within their community in LA, and like they've just been a very big big role model to new dance artists and stuff like that, but they're also they're so young, like only 2 years older than you and I,
wow.
but they're already like yeah, so they're maybe like 23 years old, 24 years old, but they're already on that big head honcho status, basically already on their way to be an OG. And they said something on their Instagram story that a couple of guidelines to follow basically, because someone responded to like uh their story post about ask me questions about dance or
Mm-hmm.
a dancer's career and how to be successful. And so one of them that this person that this young OG replied to at the very bottom said to remind yourself and to always remember that there are plenty of trophies for everyone within the dance community specifically is what this person was talking about. But I believe that there are plenty of trophies for anyone, like in any occupation you seek, you know, like don't get so stressed out or so eager to chase the bag at like 1,000 kilometers an hour to the point where you forget that like there'll never just be one spot for the number one artist or the number one athlete in the world, you know. There's trophies for everyone because that's how like human nature works basically, is that like there's classes, you know what I mean? There's never just one, otherwise that person's a god, right? At that point that person's like an entity beyond human comprehension, right? If they're
For
the
sure, man.
best
For sure.
human being in the world, right? So it's like there's always going to be room for like as many people as your field or your community needs, right? To be great. There's like greatness, like greatness is offered to everybody. Like it's something anyone can achieve. So it's like if you want to be great, like just be great. Is another piece of advice that this very young OG, you know, once said, and it was very inspiring hearing that from someone who's only like 2 years older than us, right? Because it
Mm-hmm.
kind of
Mm-hmm.
seems like, and yeah, it kind of seems like they've just like basically figured out the world at such a young age and figured out their own industry at such a young age that now they're giving advice that actually like works and that actually like improves people's careers, you know, advice that OGs back in the day wouldn't have been able to like come up with yet, right? Because obviously we have different problems now than, you know, in the late 90s, right? When dance and music and like hip hop and just all of that stuff was booming. The issues would come like uh they would come inductively, you know, they would just come naturally, like because it's the first time that this thing has happened, right? It was like the birth of hip hop means that any problems coming will probably just happen on the spot, and they'll probably just be a stepping stone, and people, the community will just step over it. They'll be like, okay, we learned from this one, let's keep going, wait for something else weird to happen, you know. And then that happens, and then it's just it's you can't predict it, but it's also it's not some like the issues that happened back then probably weren't as, you know, detrimental to the community as they are now, because now it's all about keeping your mental health sane, right? It's not just about like how much money you can make. Like it's really easy, like it actually is a lot easier than it was back in the day, obviously, to make money as an artist, right?
Mm.
Like obviously, right? Just based off of technologies,
Yeah,
like
technology helps a lot.
right? Like the evolution of technology and just like communication has already made becoming an artist and making money off of that career like so much more easy. So now it's just about like keeping your mental health in check and reminding yourself why you're doing this in the first place, and seeking identity, I think, is like the one thing that separates the 10% from the other 90, you know, because only 10% of people will try to find their own identity, obviously, because that's why in any field, right, there's those like top 10 dancers or choreographers that you have, right, or those top 10 rappers or musicians or singers that you have.
Mm.
And there's a reason why like so many people will favor those exact 10, you know, versus the rest of the community or the industry, you know. It's because they did something else. It's because something about them, they're still a person, you know what I mean? They still might be really boring or very, very uh they might be narcissistic in person, or they just might be like a complete horrible person in person. But something about their character and their identity and the way that they portray themselves in their craft made you be like, okay, they're worth remembering, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm,
so
mhm.
that's where the line is like identity, always identity. Like chasing the bag, like screw chasing the bag, bro, just chase for your identity. You know what I mean? The bag comes after naturally, trust, you know what I mean?
You're right, man. You're right.
uh yeah,
Self-awareness. Chase yourself.
exactly, chase what it means to be self-aware, and then build that into your craft, and that's it. That's the two steps. And then it sounds so easy, right? Obviously I make it sound so easy, but trust, it's definitely, it takes a lot of time, and
For
it
sure.
takes a lot of like self-thought too. You got to think a
Mm.
lot to yourself. It might suck because you might feel like you're cut off from people sometimes, because you're just constantly thinking about, oh, what can I do to improve this and that to make my identity more, you know, prominent and stuff like that. But it really is like it's a part of the journey. That's why you should never go gear towards just whatever the end goal is, you know. And it's super cliche, but it actually, like, people's careers have been left on the line because of this, right? Just chasing the end goal and forgetting about all the experiences they had before. So like by the end of the time, when they like finally reach, you know, multimillionaire status, they forget everything they experienced. They don't even know how they got there, you know.
Yeah,
They're
you're
just,
right.
yeah, it just all hits at once. They're just like in their penthouse mansion suite, like, wait, how did I even get here, you know? Like, was I even alive or awake for those, like, you know, 10 years of grinding? Yes, you want to remember them,
Of
right?
course,
So
of course.
yeah.
So Frankie, my man, I have to ask, dude. I've had an absolute pleasure talking to you, man. Time's absolutely flown by, brother. If there's
Oh
one
damn.
last right, if there's one last piece of advice that you want to leave the listeners slash viewers with, one last thing to just before we close the book on this episode, what would it be? What will be your
Oh
final thought?
man. Damn, it's hard to rephrase. If I could somehow rephrase all of that into just one, everything we've talked about into just one
Mm.
key advice that could stick with people, you know, that I'm still searching for that, which is nuts. But I'll leave it with like what you and I would always talk about, which was about like letting your extrinsic motivation become, you know, in harmony with your extrinsic motivation, right? So your own inner motivations and your aspirations and whatnot, and what the world is telling you being your extrinsic motivators, you know, let them like coincide. It's like the world needs more harmony anyway, you know, like we're in a state of like very anti-harmonious behavior, you know. And so it's like the more of that we can get away from, I think the better like everyone else will be off. And so it's more so like what you can do for each other, and that in itself should benefit your own intrinsic motivation and your own intrinsic desires, you know, is feeling more in harmony with people, because that's just like the end goal, right, is for humanity to survive and to reach like a type 4 civilization, right, where we control like half of the universe or something like that, right, or where we're like actually still thriving. And we can't get over that if like if we can't survive these prehistoric times, right, which is just all based off of how in harmony, and how well you know, how well we can operate as a team and stuff like that. So this goes for not just, you know, like theoretical like physicists who like think about this stuff for a job, but anyone who just, you know, trying to do something in life that doesn't, and they're kind of like unsure about, you know, exactly how to step into this new environment. It's just about like finding the community, man, and like building one for yourself that you trust, like your own circle. So it always goes back to the first step that I encountered when I moved back here, was just finding people and get ideas from people. Because you might think you have a lot of good ideas, but you know, you definitely do, but they're good ideas that work for your kind of thinking. And everyone in the world has a different way of thinking. You know, every single human being has a different way of thinking, and that in itself should be enough, you know, that should be enough incentive to want to go seek out other people's philosophy on anything in life. You know, if you can't get into this certain like type of sport or whatnot, it's not about whether or not you think it's the right fit for you or anything. It's about whether or not you feel like the community suits you well, and you'll be able to enjoy yourself in the community, you know? Because like people, like we're like ants, right? So we got to help each other out. And so that's the only way, is to just go find or build a community.
That's beautiful, my man. That's
Yeah.
absolutely beautiful. Frankie, good sir, for the people listening and watching who absolutely fall in love with you, where can they find you, man? What are your social media handles?
Oh dang. I forgot we have to tag ourselves below, but for anyone who
I'll do
can't
that too.
anyone who can't read the tags or anything like that, you can find both of us on Instagram, obviously. You can find me at Frank Dog. It's Frank Dog, but with a W instead of an R, and dog is spelled DAGG. And you can find Daniel on Instagram, obviously, at Danial Teaches, but don't just stop there. Make sure you hit up the YouTube podcast and all the other links that he's provided for all the amazing sources and all the other, you know, great videos that he has built up, because this man's got an arsenal. So yeah, this is stuff that transcends just regular, you know, artists and like, you know, hobbies and stuff like that. Like what you're doing, man, is like actual life, like improvement, you know, beyond what we just talked about, which is just chasing a bag, you know? Yeah.
I appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
I
Thank you.
appreciate
From the
you,
bottom of my
man.
heart. Thank you so much for coming on, man. It was an absolute pleasure,
Hey,
Frankie.
don't even mention it. I appreciate you having me on, and we'll be doing more of these like in the next couple months, I'm sure. And we can get on to the next one soon enough. Maybe we could like reach out to someone, ask them what they want to hear about too from the both of us,
Yeah,
and then
man. Totally.
we can pull something from all the people watching,
Yeah. See what the people want to hear.
oh yeah,
Hell yeah.
definitely.
Sweet. All
I'll
right.
let you go from there though, my guy.
Thank you, Frankie. Hey, to the listeners and watchers, thank you so much for watching. This has been another episode of the Danial Teaches Experience. My name is Daniel. This is Frankie. Peace out, ladies and gentlemen. Take care.
Signing off.